আরেকটা যেটা স্যাক্রিফাইস করলাম দ্যাট ইজ মাই অপরচুনিটি
sacrificed
কস্ট।
that means cost of best alternative foregone. দেখেন প্রথম জন কিন্তু বলছে কিন্তু she means the sacrifice. That means you are taking one but you are rejecting five. The five you rejected, among the five the best one is your opportunity cost. That means cost of best alternative foregone is the opportunity cost. Here is an example of opportunity cost. For example, you may invest your savings 1000 rupee either in 7% 3-year postal certificate or 6.5% 3-year fixed deposit in a national bank. In this situation, which one we will accept? In this situation, which one we will accept? Both time period is 3 years, but in one situation our interest rate is 7% and another situation our interest rate is 6.5%. Definitely we will choose the 7% one. As we are a rational person, definitely we will choose the 7% one. That's why we can say our opportunity cost of capital is 6.5% that we are sacrificing to earn 7% rate of interest. Okay, under this cost of capital, whenever we talk the cost of capital or opportunity cost of capital, there are two terms. One is we can say for the concern of internal, another is for the concern of external. Internal means shareholder. That means when we talk about the opportunities cost of capital, we need to know what are the shareholder opportunities and value, because shareholders are the internal. And there are another part that is the external, that is called creditor opportunities or claim is the external. That means when we talk about the opportunity cost, we need to discuss the both sides. Okay, who can tell me who are the capital provider of a business? The question is a little bit tricky. Who are the capital provider in the business?
So shareholders.
Shareholders. Okay, who else? Only the shareholder. Sorry,
ক্রেডিটরও তো হতে পারে।
creditor হতে পারে. That's why if it is an equity finance firm, then you can say shareholders are the only capital provider, and we need to think about their cost as a opportunity cost that they discuss at the beginning. For example, here they said in all equity finance company, management make investment decision, but shareholders supply cost of capital. Therefore, a question raised, whose opportunity cost should be considered in evaluating investment decision? Is it the opportunity cost of business or shareholder? But shareholder providing the fund, as a shareholder, you are giving 100 taka to a company, you may have different alternative. You can invest in my company or you can invest in a bank. That means your opportunity cost of capital as a finance manager, I need to know so that the shareholder opportunities and values are the maximized. This is the basic situation when we assume that the firm is equity finance. But in the real life, when the firm is bigger and bigger, the firm is not only equity finance, the firms may have some creditor. This is the second situation. And in this situation, they said that as the creditor are also capital provider, as a finance manager, you need to think about their priority, their interest rate, their cost of capital. And sometimes this creditor are bondholder, sometimes this creditor are preference shareholder, whatever may be they be. As the equity holder expect dividend, bondholder expect interest, and in the same way, the preference shareholder also expect preference dividend. This dividend, this debenture interest, or this preference share, preference dividend, all will be treated as an opportunity cost of the firm. As a finance manager, you need to think about their opportunity cost of capital in order to evaluate your particular project. And now in the same, we will evaluate the risk difference. That means as a shareholder, you may have some risks. as a equity, as a debt holder, you may have some risks. As a preference shareholder, you may have some risks. That means as a person, you have different alternative in which situation you will invest. That will be determined by the risks and return. There is a graph, you see. In this graph, the horizontal axis indicate the risks and the vertical axis indicates overall cost of capital. We need to talk about the bottom part is risk-free security. That means in this situation there is no risk, but the return is little bit low. In this line, the circle we provided here, that is along the vertical axis, that is risk-free security. Because there is no risk in our country, we can say that T-bill is the risk-free securities. T-bill interest rate is nearly 5%. That's why the overall interest rate is low. But when you think about the government bond, there is a little risk, as government is support or the bond is backed by the government. There is a less risky. When you talk about the equity, that investment opportunity is more risky. When you talk about bond, that is little bit risky. When you talk about preference share, the risk will be more higher. When you talk about the equity, the risk is the highest level. That means whenever the risks are increases, your return, you are expecting return will be also increases. That's why in case of equity, we are expecting higher return than the bond. Okay, who can tell me why bond is less risky than equity? In this graph, it mentioned that bond, it may be corporate bond or it may be government bond, both are less risky than the equity share. Why?
স্যার বন্ডে ডিভিডেন্ড পাওয়া যাবে এই জন্য?
বন্ডে কখনো ডিভিডেন্ড হয়?
স্যার বন্ডের মধ্যে ফিক্স একটা ইন্টারেস্ট পাওয়া যায়।
There is a fixed amount of interest. Interest is a fixed, but your equity dividend is fixed? No.
No, sir.
In a particular
No,
year,
sir.
in a particular year, you may earn 5%, and after 2 years, you may earn 100%. That's why this is not a fixed return. Okay, whose capital will pay it first? Or whose capital will repay it first?
It's a bond.
Bondholder, then the preference shareholder, then the equity holder. That's why we can say that debenture holder are less risky, equity holder are in the highest risk position, and we all know that higher the risk and higher the return. That's why this curve is upward trending. Okay, this is the last theoretical part. Then we'll move to our math. The term is an opportunity, weighted average cost of capital. There are two terms, both are similar. Just you need to know. If I talk about overall cost of capital, if I talk about weighted average cost of capital, both terms are similar. Okay, for example, you have 4 courses in this semester. If I ask you, what is your GPA for accounting and finance courses? What you will answer? You will answer what you got. Okay. If I ask you, what is your result in the first semester? Or what is your CGPA in the first semester? In this situation, how you will give the answer? এই কারো পাশ থেকে শব্দ আসতেছে, একটু মিউট করে নেন। আপনি যখন রেসপন্স করবেন তখন আনমিউট করে নেবেন। ওকে, আমি যদি এটা আরেকবার বলি, মনে করেন আপনার রেজাল্ট কি? If I ask you, how can you give the answer? Should I say my CGPA is 3.75, or should I say I got 4 in accounting and finance course, I got 3.5 in macroeconomics, I got 3.2 is that courses, like this way? How should I say?
CGPA বলবো।
CGPA. That means CGPA
CGPA.
is the combination of first 4 courses you take. Then what will be the firm situation? If you ask a finance manager, what is your cost of capital? How he will respond? If you ask a finance manager, what is your cost of capital? He may borrow fund from the bank. He may borrow fund by issuing debenture. He may borrow fund by issuing share. These 3 alternatives have different cost of capital. How this person will answer you? He will tell you 3 different cost of capital, or he will tell you 1 cost of capital.
One cost of capital.
Definitely,
Weighted average
it
cost
is
of
to
capital.
say 1 cost of capital. That 1 cost of capital is the weighted average cost of capital or overall cost of capital. That means here you can see the cost of capital for each source of capital is known as component or a specific cost of capital. For example, cost of debt, cost of equity, cost of preference share. But the combined cost of all sources of capital is called overall or average cost of capital. That means overall cost of capital indicates the combined source of all cost of capital. And that average cost of capital, when we use the proportionately, that means I issue share 10 lakh, I issue debenture 5 lakh. As the amount of debenture and shares are not same, we need to do the weighted average. That overall cost, that when we calculate by using the weighted average method, that is known as weighted average cost of capital. That means when we talk about the weighted average cost of capital, when we talk about the overall cost of capital, this doesn't indicate a single source. This must be more than 1 source cost of capital. We will solve this kind of math at the end of this chapter. Okay, do you have any problem regarding the theory we learned last half an hour? Any topics you missed out or any topics you can't understand?
স্যার একটা বলেছিলেন স্যার অপটিমাম লেভেল অফ ডেবিটেন্ট মানে কি জানি একটা ডেপ্ট নিয়ে একটা কোশ্চেন করেছিলেন।
What is the optimum level of debenture? মনে করেন আমি ডিবেঞ্চার বেশি, ডিবেঞ্চার না থাকলে ভালো না ডিবেঞ্চার থাকলে ভালো?
স্যার দুইটারই ব্যালেন্স থাকলে
না, for example, this is a equity firm. This one good, or a firm which have equity and debenture, which one is good?
ইকুইটি এন্ড ডিবেঞ্চার
Equity and debenture. Why? Because debenture
কম্বিনেশন।
gives us some tax benefits. Whenever you have debenture, interest expense helps to reduce our tax. But how much debenture we need to issue? Should we use 1 crore, 5 crore, 10 crore, or what? How much? This decision will determine by optimum debenture position is determined by capital structure decision. And the basic thing actually we will not learn in these topics in this course. The optimum capital structure is that whenever you have lower overall cost of capital or whenever you have higher value of the firm, that is the optimum capital structure. That means in this situation or in which situation, whenever you have lower cost of capital or higher value of the firm, that is the optimum debenture. That optimum debenture is known as optimum debt. Actually, if you are interested, you can go through the chapter 15 of your textbook. You will learn the capital structure decision from this side. Mohammad Zahid Hossain, would you please mute yourself? We are hearing lots of noise from your side. Okay, Mr. Saiful Islam, you raise your hand.
Sorry, sir. I have joined in late actually. Sir, just if possible, just if you can share the topics you discussed in last.
We are discussing chapter 9, cost of capital.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, now we will start our mathematical part. Actually, we already have 23 or 4 students. I think nearly all are present. Now we can go to our main mathematical part. We have 3 types of math, and finally we will learn the overall cost of capital. First, we will learn about the cost of debt. Whenever we need to learn about the cost of debt, we need to know few basic features of debt. Actually, these features are not available in this chapter, but as we are not completing all the chapter, we need to know what are the basic features of debenture. Actually, 3 or 4 features of debenture. Is there anyone who can tell me what are the basic feature? আপনাদেরকে সবাইকে কয়েকবার রিকোয়েস্ট করছি, এই যে ক্যামেরার পিছনে যারা ঘুমাচ্ছেন একজনেরও অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স দিব না এবং মার্ক করে রাখবো। কিন্তু এই ক্যামেরা অফ করে রাখা মানে কি জানেন, এই শুয়ে শুয়ে ঘুমাচ্ছে, একটু পরে নাম ধরে ধরে ডাকবো আর কারো কোনো খোঁজ নাই।
স্যার অথবা বাংলাদেশে খেলা দেখতেছে, এটা হইতে পারে স্যার।
এটা তো মানে এই খেলা দেখে আজকেও যদি হারি 280 বাংলাদেশ করতে পারবে, মেজাজ খারাপ করে তো ওদিকে দেখারই কথা না।
না স্যার দেখতেছি না।
রেজাল্ট যখন জানা দেখে কি করবে?
হ্যাঁ, আপনার নিজেরও তো ক্যামেরা বন্ধ, আপনি বলতেছেন রেজাল্ট জানা, আপনারও তো ক্যামেরা অফ হয়ে আছে।
স্যার আমার ক্যামেরা অন করা ট্রাই করতেছি, পারতেছি না, বাট আমি ক্লাস অ্যাটেন্ড করতেছি।
যাক, আপনি রেসপন্স করতেছেন, আর এই যে যারা রেসপন্স করতেছে না, কি করে বুঝবো যে তারা দেখেন ক্লাসে আছে? এই যে দেখেন উপরে আমাদের মাহবুবুর রহমান খান আছে, উনি মুখ গম্ভীর করে বসে আছে, বোঝা যাচ্ছে যে কিছু একটা বুঝতে পারে না। এই যে জাহিদ হোসেন হাসতেছে, ওনার বাসার শব্দ টব্দ আমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছি, কিছু তো হলে বোঝা যাচ্ছে। যে চেহারা দেখেও তো বোঝা যায় যে কে বুঝতে পারতেছে পারে না, কিন্তু সবাই যদি ক্যামেরা বন্ধ করে রাখে, একটা ব্ল্যাঙ্ক স্ক্রিনের দিকে তাকায় কত সময় কথা বলা যায়? Okay, who can tell me what are the unique features of bond or debenture? Debt. There are few features you need to know. First, each and every bond must have a face value. Face value means, that means it may be 100, it may be 10, it may be 1000. It must have a face value. The second unique feature, each bond must have a interest rate. For example, if you buy the bond, you will earn 5%, 10%, 8%, or 12% rate. That is called your interest rate. Third feature is, that is called maturity. That means bond may be redeemable, bonds may be irredeemable. Irredeemable means the bond is for unlimited time. But if the bonds is redeemable, it must have a maturity period. That means 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. What does it mean? For example, I buy a bond for taka 1000. The maturity period is 5 years. That means in each year, I will receive an interest from the bond. For example, 10%. That means each year I will receive an interest of 100 taka. And after 5 years, I will receive the 1000 taka that I invested at the beginning. That means maturity period indicates the time period of bond maturity. And in case of redeemable bond, the face value will be returned at the end of the maturity. And the fourth feature, sometimes you may need this, sometimes you may not need this, that is, bond may issued at par, bond may issued at premium, or bond may issued at discount. There are 3 options. For example, if we talk about the bond may issued as a premium, then what happened? Then this bond, as the company's financial position is very good, the 1000 taka face value bond company wants to issue in 1100. For example, Square issuing the bond, that 1000 taka bond will be 1100, as they have very good reputation in the market. That is called bond issued at premium. For example, any unknown organization, they want to issue the bond face value 1000, but their market value does not support the 1000. That's why they need to sell 900 taka of their face value bond 1000. That means the face value 1000, but due to their reputation or market value, they are selling the bond is 900. That is called bond issued at discount. So one is premium, one is discount. And another is at par. At par indicates that you are selling 1000 taka bond in 1000. That means there is no high price, there is no low price. You are selling at par. That is known as bond issued at par. One or two terms you need to know before starting the math. That is bond issuing charge. For example, management department wants to issue the bond. The manpower, the capacity we have in the management department, we don't have enough manpower to issue bond in the market. That's why we are taking help of, for example, IDLC. IDLC is a non-bank financial institution. They are issuing our debenture. What IDLC will charge us? IDLC will do this job freely? No. They will charge a fee that is known as underwriting commission, or in finance that is known as flotation cost, issuing cost, flotation cost. And we are issuing 1000 taka bond, but finally after giving the commission to the IDLC, we are receiving 980 taka. That 20 is known as flotation cost. Flotation cost will reduce your collection. That's why whenever you have some flotation cost, it will affect your math. Okay, we will start the math now, but before starting, one more thing. The cost of debt and the cost of preference share math will be relatively same. That's why in the books, they mainly focus the cost of debt. Debt calculation and preference share calculations are similar. But in case of debt, debt means cost of debt after tax. Preference dividend means preference dividend not after debt. Whenever we talk at the cost of debt, it indicates cost of debt after tax. If it does not include your question after tax, it doesn't matter. Cost of debt means cost of debt after tax. Okay, just I think someone raise your hand. What is your question?
স্যার আমি জাহিদ বলছিলাম স্যার ওই যে ডিসকাউন্টের যে ডেপটা আমরা কিনবো ফর এক্সাম্পল 1000 টাকাটা হচ্ছে 900 টাকায় কিনলাম, যখন আমি সেল করব তখন তো হচ্ছে আমি 1000 টাকা প্লাস ডিসকাউন্ট অ্যামাউন্ট।
No, you will receive the face value. You are buying by taka 900, but after 5 years you will receive the face value 1000, and your interest will be calculated on face value. Interest always need to calculate on face value, not the purchase price.
Okay sir, thank you.
Okay, is there any other question? Okay, now we are at the cost of debt. That means debenture cost is known as cost of debt. The first alternative is if the debt issued at par. That means in this book, they mainly use bond face value 100 rupee. That means if you sell the bond 100 taka and the face value is also 100, then we can say the bond issued at par. For example, there is an example here, and the cost of debt is marked as KD. What is the example mentioned here? They want to issue 7-year 15% bond, 100 each at par. There is a one sentence. One sentence provide us 4 information. You need to find out this kind of information, otherwise it will be difficult for your own math. 4 information. First one is maturity period 7 years. 15%, it means your interest rate. Your rate of interest is 15%. Face value is 100, and the bond issued at par. That means there is no premium, there is no discount. And we are in this situation, how can we calculate the cost of debt? The basic formula is interest divided by B0. B0 means issue price, the current selling price. Simple, current selling price of bond is known as B0. 0 means present, or you can say the present price of bond is B0. That means it's simple. You need to mark the formula. If you have the book, please mark it. In case of debt issued at
Sir,
par, the
B0
formula is
আরেকবার
simple.
explain করবেন?
Sorry,
B0
B0 is current selling price of bond. Okay, I can say present value of bond, but sometimes it will be difficult. Sometimes it will not be present value. Sometimes it will be current selling price of the bond. Why this happening? For example, this bond face value is 100, but your financial condition is not good enough. You are selling the bond is 95 taka. That means this 5 taka is your discount, and the issuing company charges 2 taka as a underwriting commission. What will be the value of B0? 100, 95 or 93? 100 taka is the face value. You are issuing 5 taka discount, and the issuing organization charges 2 taka as commission. What will be the value of B0?
93.
Sir, 95.
93. Your flotation cost on issuing charge must need to be deducted. That's why I said current selling price.
Yes, sir. So 93.
Current selling price means after selling the bond, what is the amount you are receiving? We are receiving 93. But in this math, there is no problem because we already said debt issued at par. As the debt issued at par, we just need to divide it interest by the B0. Here is the calculation of interest. Interest is the face value of debt multiply the interest rate. Our face value of the debt is 100. Interest rate is 15. That's why the amount of interest will be 15. And the cost of debt will be 15 divided by 100. That is 15%. And this kind of problem, always the interest rate and cost of debt will be same because the bond issued at par. But this cash flow, what is the example indicate? Is this a single period problem or multiple period problem? The problem we discuss now, is this a single period problem or a multiple period problem?
Single period.
Single period. That means you are investing and you are receiving just 15 taka per year. But now we are discussing about if the bond maturity is 7 years, what will happen? What will happen? The bond maturity. If I use this screen, just think what is given here. For example, they are mentioning. Can you see my Word file?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What is given that? Given that face value of bond face value is, we can say face value, okay, we just write F. If it is FB, then you may indicate this is a future value. Face value of the bond is 100. Maturity period N is equal to maturity period. Whenever you write N, you try to write a small n. Maturity period is 7 years. Interest rate, what is the interest rate given? Interest rate I is equal to, this problem indicates is 15%.
15%.
These three information is given, and issued at par is also given. Okay, then what is the amount of interest? Amount of interest will be 100 taka is the face value multiplied by 15% interest. That means taka 15 will be interest. We just calculate this 15 taka. Now who can tell me, as a bondholder, what you will receive in the next 7 years? what you will receive in the next 7 years? Who can tell me? This is very important for the math. If you don't understand this part, the cost of debt will be always giving you some pressure. Miss Lily, what we will receive as a bondholder? I think she's not here. Okay, Miss Jamila. So I think Miss Jamila. If I'm not wrong, the name is very short.
জমিলা নিকিতা
মিস নিকিতা, দেখেন অবস্থা, যাদেরই খুঁজি সব নাই। মিস তন্দ্রা রয়, আপনারা বুঝতে পারতেছেন আমি কাদেরকে জিজ্ঞাসা করতেছি? যাদের স্ক্রিনটা অফ হয়ে আছে।
Hello, sir.
Okay, what you will receive as a bondholder? We can hear you, Nikita. We can hear you, but we can't see you. Can you tell me, in this situation, what you will receive as a bondholder in the next 7 years? This is very important for calculating the cost of debt. Okay, Miss Tondra Roy.
সরি স্যার, আমি স্যার বলতে পারছি না।
ওকে, ঠিক আছে। মাহমুদুল হাসান, আপনারা আছেন এটাই কনফার্ম করতেছি, আসলে আর কিছু না। মাহমুদুল হাসান নাই। ইফতেখার ইসলাম, এইগুলা চিন্তা করে লাভ নাই। ও ইফতেখারের মনে হয় 2টা আইডি থেকে জয়েন করছেন না? ইফতেখার 2জন। ওকে, বলেন তো ইফতেখার, হোয়াট উইল রিসিভ ইন দ্য নেক্সট 7 ইয়ার্স?
স্যার বের করি নাই এখনো।
ওকে, বের করতে তো বলি নাই, আপনি স্ক্রিনে যে 4টা ইনফরমেশন দেওয়া আছে এখান থেকে ইউ ক্যান টেল মি। ওকে, the first thing we will receive 2 things. The first is in the next 7 years we will receive interest 15 taka for each year. Is it clear for all? We will receive next 7 years 15 taka as interest. What you will receive after 7 years
ইন্টারেস্ট
or at the end of 7 years?
জাস্ট ইন্টারেস্ট
We will receive the face value of the bond. As the bond maturity is 7 years, after 7 years, the company will repay the 100 taka. Then what is our collection? That means cash flow. We can say, if we talk about like this, we don't need to do this part in the math, but for your understanding, I am writing this. What is the cash flow for this kind of situation? As a bondholder, you will receive first year, second year, third year, 4th year, 5th year, 6th year, 7 year, 7 year. Okay, I'm writing 2-7. First year you will receive 15 taka, second year receive 15 taka, third year 15, all will be 15. 7 year you will receive 15 taka as interest, and what else 7 year you receive? You will receive 100 taka as principal amount. These are the collection. These are your collection from the bond. That is the cash value. Okay, if I ask you how much we will pay for this bond, just like your time value of money, discounting. In this discounting part, there are 2 situations. This 7 year is a present value of annuity, because you will receive 15 taka for each year. And the last 100 taka, is it for all 7 years or just a one-time receipt?
One time
One time receive.
This is a simple present value. That means 15 taka is a present value of annuity, and 100 taka is a simple present value. If we discount this, we can do this in the two way. Here is a formula. That means B0 is equal to first year discounting, second year discounting, third year discounting, fourth year discounting, like this way. And after 7 years, you will again receive 100 taka. We can do it in the alternative way. As we know that this amount is fixed for each year, we can use present value of annuity formula. We can write this like this. B0 is annuity installment, present value, interest factor, annuity. Our interest rate, we don't know the cost of debt yet. We need to calculate the KD, and the amount time period is 7 years. And there is another one that is called future value, present value, interest factor, KD, 7 years. These two combine your B0. We know the B0 is 100 and our interest amount is 15 taka each year. Present value, interest factor, annuity. We need to know the KD. We don't know the KD yet, but we know the 7 years. And the future value is 100 that will receive at the end of 7 years. That is present value, interest factor, KD multiplied by 7 years. Either we can use this part, this formula, that will be bigger little bit because you need to write the 7 times, or you can use this marked one that I write in our text. 100 taka is the B0, 15 value is the present value, interest factor, annuity. In this situation, we need to know the KD. KD is our cost of debt. This is our requirement. That means at which percent interest rate this side will be equal to 100. Can anyone tell me what we need to use now? These are very similar with the last chapter we did for internal rate of return. We need to know at what percent cost of debt this side will be equal to 100. We used a term in chapter 8 in order to calculate IRR. In order to calculate IRR, we used a term. And we use different percentages. And finally, we know that by using that method,
Trial and error.
Trial and error, sir.
Trial
Trial
and
and error method, AJS. You can see by trial and error method, they didn't show the trial and error here. They just write the answer. That means what we need to do first, if I solve this math, if you help me by seeing the factor value, for example, first we will take at 15%, or we said we will not use 15% because the result is 15. For example, we use 10%. What will happen? We need to write at 10%. We need to write the right side. That means 15 present value, interest factor, annuity, 10%, 7 years, plus 100 present value, interest factor, 10%, 7 years. Now we need to put the value from at the end of the book. I have my book here. That's why I'm just checking the page. I'm just telling the page number. For first part, which table we need to use? Present value, interest factor, annuity. Table A, B, C, D. Which one?
Table A.
Table D.
Table number D. Present value, interest factor, annuity. If we look it here, we can see 15, 10% 7 years, 10% 7 years, value is 4.868. 4.868. And the second part, which table we will use? Present value interest factor 1, table number C. For the second part, we need to use the table number C, present value of lump sum factor 10% 7 years, that is 0.513. 0.513. Now tell me what is the value at 10%. What is the value at 10%? এটা গুণ করে জাস্ট একটা লাইন করবেন।
স্যার 124.32.
24.32. That means for 10%, our required value is higher than 100. We need 100. Do I increase the interest rate or do I decrease the interest rate? We need to increase it or decrease it?
Sir, we need to increase.
We need another value less than 100. That's why we will decrease it. At 20%, the same thing we will write. That's why I'm just copying the value. The same, but we need to put the value here. That means now we use 20%. That means 15 multiplied by something. We'll need to check again the value. 20% 7 years. 20% 7 years, 3.605. 3.605. And this one is 100. And 20% 7 year for present value lump sum factor 0.279. 0.279. What is the result? বলেন হ্যান্ড রেজ করছেন কেন?
81.975.
81.975. Okay, we know that. Now what we need to do now? By using trial and error, because in the book they simply just show the result. In the exam you can't do this like this way. You have to calculate. By using trial and error method, I'm not writing the formula again because you all know what is the formula. What is the lowest interest rate? 10 plus we need to deduct higher value. Higher value, which one is higher value? 124.32 minus 100 divided by 124.32 minus 81.975. What do we need to multiply?
The difference, sir. It is 10%.
What is?
Interest percent.
I'm just giving a second bracket and then multiplied by 10. Just find out the value. It may be little bit different from the books because if we need 15%, the result is exactly 100. But our result may be more or less than 15%. What is the result? কত আসছে? সবার কি একই আসছে?
আমার স্যার 15.74 আসছে স্যার।
এরকমই হওয়ার কথা, বিকজ ইন দ্য বুক they just write the here by using trial and error method. What is the answer? They give the answer 15%. It may be near about 15% because we use 10% and 20%. That's why the result may be little bit high or low, but not 12 like this. What is the result?
15.74 স্যার।
15.74.
74 পেয়েছেন।
That means for in this types of math, we need to solve it by using trial and error method. Is it clear for all?
Yes sir.
Okay.
Yes,
The
sir.
same problem, now we look it if it is issued at discount or premium. The earlier example was in issued at par. That means 100 taka face value, you are issuing at 100 taka. But now we will see it may be issued at premium or it may be issued at discount. Okay, here is an example. What they said, the 7-year 15% bond, each bond is sold below par for 94. What is the current selling price? What is the current selling price? 94. That means it indicates B0 is 94. The same thing, you are using 94 and using the same formula, and they said by using trial and error method, KD is 16.5% result. That means the same way we use the formula, but remember, as the issue price is 94, we need to write here just in place of 100. Here we are using value 100. Here our targeted value is 100, but in this situation we will use 94 as the issue is discount. And the same problem they again discuss at premium. Okay, they didn't show here the premium, but they show it in the trial and error method. Result is here the same way we did it. You see, this is the lowest interest rate. They use two interest rate, one is 16%, another is 17%. They know the result, that's why they use very close. This is the difference in interest rate that we multiplied at the end. On the top part they write 1.97. 1.97 means higher minus medium. Higher minus medium dot we use on the top, that is 1.97. Higher minus lowest, that is 3.84, they use at the bottom. That means they just use the value after deducting higher minus medium and higher minus lowest, and calculating the value, they show that the result is 16.5%. The same thing, that's why we are not solving this. You can solve it in your home, using trial and error method. If they said we issued the share bond by 105, what will be the change in this math? 105 means issued at premium. Sometimes they may say they are issuing taka 105. Sometimes they may say they issued 5% premium. If they said 5% premium, they are not selling they are not telling us the exact amount, but we know as the face value is 100 and they are selling 5% premium, that means current selling price is 105.
100.
There are two options. One is information is given by percentage and another is information is given by amount. Okay, the last part for KD or cost of debt is your tax adjustment. Whatever we calculate till now, that is cost of debt, but we started by giving the information cost of debt is always cost of debt after tax. That means this problem or the answer we received here, the answer you tell me a few minutes before, 15.4%, this is cost of debt before tax. Cost of debt before tax is 15.74%. But if the question asks calculate the cost of debt, KD, it indicates cost of debt after tax. Then how can we calculate the cost of debt after tax? Cost of debt after tax is equal to KD 1 minus tax rate. This is the formula, KD 1 minus tax. And in this math, they said here tax is a 35%. It is assumed that 35% is the tax. If we assume that same 35% is the tax, then we can calculate the cost of debt, that is 15.74 multiplied by 1 minus 0.35. That is your cost of debt after tax. Calculate what is the cost of debt after tax.
Sir, 10.231.
10.231.
সবার কি হয়েছে এটা?
Yes, sir.
জি স্যার, জি স্যার।
10.231.
Any question? কারো কোনো কোশ্চেন আছে এই পর্যন্ত?
স্যার 0.35 টা কি ওই যে ট্যাক্সের রেট?
Tax rate. It will be given in the exam.
ওকে স্যার।
Any question related to bond, cost of bond, that means cost of debt. It may be at par, it may be at premium, but there is some limitation here. They didn't give any problem relating to issuing cost, underwriting commission, or flotation cost. Just remember, is there any flotation cost? You have to deduct that flotation cost from the selling price. For example, this math, if they mention company charges 2 taka as a underwriting commission, what will be the change? This 100 taka will be 98 in this situation. This 100 will be 98 if they mention 2 taka as underwriting commission.
এটা একটু আবার বলবেন স্যার?
আমাদের এখানে কোনো আন্ডাররাইটিং কমিশনের কোনো অঙ্ক দেওয়া নাই in the illustration, but if
Okay.
the exam question asked underwriting commission, flotation cost, service charge, then you need to deduct that service charge or commission from the current selling price. In this math, the current selling price is 100 because we use the formula that is at par. যদি আন্ডাররাইটিং কমিশন থাকতো তাহলে 100 টাকা থেকে 2 টাকা বাদ দিয়ে 98 টাকা আমরা লিখতাম, এবং ট্রায়াল এন্ড এররের জন্য তখন কম্পেয়ার করতাম কার সাথে? 98 এর সাথে।
ক্লিয়ার স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
আর কারো কোনো প্রবলেম থাকলে বলেন, তারপরে আমরা প্রেফারেন্সে যাব। আর কারো কোনো প্রবলেম আছে এই রিলেটেড? না, ওকে। We already said that cost of debt and cost of preference share calculation are both same. In both situations, you need to do the trial and error method. Okay, but before starting the cost of debt, we already learned the unique feature of the cost of unique feature of the debenture. Now, in the same way, we need to know the features of preference share. Who can tell me the unique features of preference share?
স্যার ভোটিং রাইটস এগুলো
কি কি ফিচার আছে এই আগের চারটা ফিচারের সাথে দেখেন তো এখানে কি কি মিল আছে কিনা in case of preference share or bond both have a face value similar both have a interest rate or preference dividend rate in the debenture we had interest rate in the preference share we have a fixed preference dividend rate the term is different one is interest rate one is dividend rate but the percentage is fixed before issuing same in case of bond it may be there may be some maturity period in case of preference share there may be some maturity period same way the bond and preference capital has some that is called if it is redeemable after the maturity period you will receive your amount back that means in this problem the problem we solved that is 100 taka we return after 7 years same in the case of preference capital 100 taka will be returned but there is a difference that will not affect in our math the difference is the debenture holder right will be repaid first then the preference shareholder we don't have this kind of problem in the math the difference is the preference capital holders have some chances to convert as a shareholder that doesn't have the bond holder but this kind of difference we don't need to use in the math there are some similarities there are some difference in the problem what we need that only the similarities one no difference will happen in the mathematical but remember preference share is known as hybrid security why hybrid because it has both the features of debenture and equity that's why it is known as hybrid security okay hand raise করছেন কে বলেন
স্যার এই প্রেফারেন্স শেয়ারের মধ্যে যদিও ওই যে প্রফিটটা ফিক্স করা থাকে পার্সেন্ট অনুসারে তো এটা কি কোম্পানি যদি লসও করে তখনও কি প্রফিট মানে তখন ওই পার্সেন্ট অনুসারে দিবে নাকি জাস্ট প্রফিট করলে তখন
and it will be accumulated and it will be later on when they will earn for example this year there is a loss you will not receive any dividend but your dividend will not lost it will be repaid in the next year শেয়ারের ক্ষেত্রে কি হয় এই বছর কোনো কোম্পানি প্রফিট করে নাই কোনো ডিভিডেন্ড নাই আপনি ভবিষ্যতেও পাবেন কিনা সন্দেহ আছে কিন্তু প্রেফারেন্স শেয়ারের এই বছর কোম্পানি প্রফিট করতে পারে নাই প্রেফারেন্স ডিভিডেন্ড উইল বি ডিপোজিটেড অর কেপ্ট ইন দ্য কোম্পানি ইট উইল বি পেইড ইন দ্য নেক্সট ইয়ার
ও স্যার কোম্পানি যখন দিতে পারবে তখনই আমি পেয়ে যাব
বুঝা গেছে
সরি স্যার লাইন নেটওয়ার্কের জন্য পয়েন্টটা বুঝতে পারিনি
যখন দিতে পারবে তখন সে দিবে কিন্তু এটা আপনার নষ্ট হচ্ছে না আপনার এই রাইট
অ্যাড হতে থাকবে
অ্যাড হতে থাকবে ইভেন রিয়েল লাইফে দেয়ার ইজ এ প্রভিশন অফ ইন্টারেস্ট আমরা হয়তো ম্যাথের ক্ষেত্রে সেগুলো দেখবো না ইন দ্য রিয়েল লাইফ দেয়ার ইজ এ প্রভিশন অফ ইন্টারেস্ট ফর এক্সাম্পল ইন দিস ইয়ার you will receive 50 taka as a preference dividend but company is unable to pay in the next year you will receive 50 taka with interest
okay sir
okay আর কারো কোনো ওকে নালে আমরা এটা চলে যাই সেম একটা এখানে ছোট্ট একটা প্রবলেম দেওয়া আছে ওইটাই আমরা একটু দেখব the cost of preference share this is the first formula in the earlier in case of cost of debt we write interest divided by b0 in case of preference share we will write PDIV that is known as that is short form as preference dividend and P0 is current selling price of preference share here is the P0 is the issue price of the preference share or we can say current selling price of the preference share when we will use this formula when there is a maturity and issued at par here is the one example for example they said preference dividend rate is 10% face value is 100 issue price is 95 what is the cost of preference share and what is the cost if the issue at 105. They included all in one problem. That means 105 means issue price at premium, 95 means issue price at discount. তাহলে এখানে দেখেন ফেস ভ্যালু কত 100. So in one example they said they issued at 95, that is at discount, and another situation they said issued at 105, that is premium. But my question is, how can we calculate the preference dividend on the basis of 100, 95 or 105?
ফেসগুলোর উপর সাধারণত ডিভিডেন্ড দেওয়া হবে।
Always the dividend will be face value, that not discount, not premium. Okay, then see that this is the formula. The preference dividend in the both situation, the preference dividend is 10 when the issue price is 95, that is P0 is 95, the cost of preference share is 10.53%. When the issue price is 105, that is the premium, 10 divided by 105, that is 9.52%. Is it clear? Just look this example. This is same in the previous, but just need to know what we will need to do in case of premium, in case of discount.
স্যার আমরা একটু আগে তো যেটা জানলাম যে এটা প্রিমিয়াম ভ্যালুতে হবে না, এটা হচ্ছে আমার সেম ভ্যালুতে হবে।
Okay, premium ভ্যালু তো হয়নি, সেটা কোনটা? For preference dividend, as it is 10% dividend, your dividend amount is 100 multiplied by 10% for both situation. But issue price is same. Issue price depends on it is discount or premium.
সেক্ষেত্রে আমাদের স্যার দুইটাই কনসিডার করতে হবে।
এটা যদি এক্সাম্পলে দুটো বলা আছে বলে দুটো কনসিডার করব, আমার এক্সাম্পলে না বলা থাকলে আমি দুটো আলাদা বেরই করতাম না।
আচ্ছা স্যার, ক্লিয়ার স্যার। জি,
ওকে, তাহলে এটা ছিল কি ইরিডিমেবল। What is irredeemable? In case of irredeemable, there is no maturity period. Redeemable means after 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, your preference shareholder face value amount will be repaid. That is called redeemable preference share. Same the problem we solved few minutes before in the Microsoft Word. Here is the formula. Just only one change. We need to write the formula here. If I write it here, if I write the changes here, we used B0 for bond, we use P0 for preference share. Here we can write interest or installment. In this problem we can write interest or installment, but here we need to write preference dividend. Present value, interest factor, annuity. We will write KP, cost of preference share. The same 7 years, we assume that. And the same way, the future value, present value, interest factor, again KP, cost of preference share, 7 years. The same way we need to solve it. Just we use the different term. As it is preference share, we use P0. As it is preference share, we use preference dividend. This is the only difference, but the process are same when there is a maturity period. Maturity period means it is called redeemable preference share. That means there are two options. This problem indicates irredeemable. Irredeemable means there is no maturity period. You will receive the dividend for unlimited time. Redeemable means there is a maturity period and you will receive the dividend up to this period, and at the end of the period you will return back your investment. But in case of irredeemable, there is no way to return back the investment. Is it clear for all?
কিসের একটা এক্সাম্পল দেওয়া যাবে স্যার এরকম ক্ষেত্রে যে এটা মানে নরমালি মানে বাস্তবে হয় এরকম?
আমাদের যে সমস্ত বন্ড বাংলাদেশে ইস্যু করা হয়েছে এই পর্যন্ত সব হচ্ছে রিডিমেবল। বন্ড তো ইস্যু করাই যায় না, ইস্যু হয়ই না খুব একটা। ইভেন আমরা বাংলাদেশে যেগুলা বন্ড ইস্যু করছে এখন পর্যন্ত সব হচ্ছে রিডিমেবল। দ্যাট মিনস 5 ইয়ার্স, 10 ইয়ার্স, 20 ইয়ার্স এভাবে। যদি এরকম নির্দিষ্ট সময়ের জন্য, যেমন ধরেন এই যে আমরা কিছুদিন আগে যেটা বললাম আইএফআইসি বন্ড, ইজ ইট রিডিমেবল অর ইরিডিমেবল?
রিডিমেবল সেটা তো ফেরত দিবে আমাদেরকে আবার
আফটার 5 ইয়ার্স ইউ উইল রিসিভ ব্যাক ইওর মানি, দ্যাট ইজ রিডিমেবল। কিন্তু যদি এটা ইরিডিমেবল হইতো, প্রতি বছর আপনি 12% ইন্টারেস্ট পেয়ে যেতেন, আজীবন পেয়ে যেতেন যতদিন পর্যন্ত আপনার টাকা ইনভেস্টমেন্ট ছিল। কিন্তু ইন কেস অফ আইএফআইসি বন্ড, there is a maturity period 5 years. You will not receive more than 5 years, and after 5 years they will return your investment as per theory. I don't know they will return, but as per theory they will return. I'm very much confused for this kind of bond because they are giving higher interest rate that is beyond the market rate. In the IFIC bank, you can take loan at 9%, but IFIC bank issue bond at 12%. How is it possible? Okay, now we will move to our last part, that is cost of equity. We already complete KD, we already complete KP, that is cost of preference share. Now we will use cost of equity. Okay, there are few formulas for cost of equity. I will write or discuss the formula first. It will help you. Actually, we need to know the KE. We need to know the KE, that is called cost of equity. But how the formula arrives? When we talk about we need to find out the P0 or price of the share, P0. What we need to do? We need to find out the dividend 1 divided by KE minus G. Okay, this is the main formula, that is price of the share will be next year dividend. P0 means price of the share at right now will be equal to next year dividend, that's why dividend 1 divided by KE minus G. KE is cost of equity, G indicates the growth rate. If they don't provide the G, that means G indicates ROE or R. Both are same, rate of equity or rate of return, multiplied by B. What is B? B indicates retention ratio. That means if the value of G is not given, then we need to multiply it by 2. One is return on equity or rate of return multiplied by, this is or, I just omitted the or, otherwise it will be treated as a divided. Return on equity multiplied by B. Or we can write it like this way, R multiplied by B. Sometimes it ROE, sometimes it R. Both are same. It depends on the nature of the firm. If it is equity based firm, then we need to write ROE. If it is levered firm that has debt, we need to write it R. But both are same, and this value of R always given in your math. Okay, can anyone tell me, if I rewrite this formula, how can we find the value of KE? What can we write from this formula? What we can write for value of cost of equity? একটু রিঅ্যারেঞ্জ করে বলেন না, একটু চেষ্টা করেন না। কি হবে? ডিভিডেন্ড 1 ডিভাইডেড বাই
P0.
সরি, ডিভিডেন্ড 1 ডিভাইডেড বাই
PO.
P0, PO বলবো না,
P0.
এর সাথে কি করব? প্লাস আর মাইনাস?
Plus
প্লাস, হোয়াট ইজ প্লাস?
G.
G or growth rate. Here is the formula, but this formula creates, here is the formula, dividend P0 plus G. Here is the formula, dividend P0 plus G. But there is some problem here, because we know that this formula we need dividend 1. But if dividend 1 is not given, dividend 0 is given, how can we write dividend 0 plus multiplied by 1 plus G indicates dividend 1. That means we need dividend 1, but in the problem dividend 1 is not given. But we can calculate the dividend 1. How can we calculate? Dividend 0 multiplied by 1 plus G is dividend 1. Is it clear?
জি স্যার। স্যার আমরা কিভাবে বুঝবো কোনটা 0 কোনটা 1?
বুঝি নাই আপনার কথাটা।
মানে ডিভিডেন্ড 1 কোনটা বা ডিভিডেন্ড 0 কোনটা, মানে কোশ্চেন দেখলে কিভাবে বুঝবো?
ওকে, যদি বলে right now the company declare 5 taka as dividend, and in another situation they can say the dividend will be 5 taka next year. Next year will be D1. Right now current is D0. বর্তমানটা হচ্ছে 0, next yearটা হচ্ছে dividend. Okay, if I said they don't have dividend 0, then how can we find out dividend 1? I'm just giving the option. There are different options we can find dividend 1. When they don't provide dividend 1, but they have the EPS, we can write EPS 1 minus B is dividend 1. This can be another way. That means we are changing which part? We are changing on the top part. If dividend 1 is not given, we can use dividend 1 is equal to earning per share 1 minus B. Earning per share means your total earning divided by the number of share. B means retention ratio. Retention ratio means, for example, you earn 100 taka, but you pay dividend 20 taka for the dividend. That 20 taka is dividend payout ratio. That means 20% dividend payout ratio and 80% is the retention ratio. That means the percentage you retain from the earning for future investment in the business, that is known as retention ratio. Always remember that dividend payout ratio and retention ratio will be 100%. These two equals to 100%. Is it clear for all? Now we look some here. There is there is a formula for normal growth. This is the formula that we started, and this is the rewriting of formula that you tell me dividend 1 divided by P0 plus G. And here is our first example. Oh, there is another one that is called growth. When the growth is not given, we need to use return on equity multiplied by the retention ratio, that is ROE multiplied by G. The dividend payout ratio is 1 minus B. That is already we write it here. EPS 1 minus B is also dividend value. Here is our first example. For example, suppose the current price of a company share is 90 and expected dividend per share next year. Per share next year, is it dividend 1 or dividend 0?
Dividend 1.
Dividend
1.
Is 4.5, and if the dividends are expected to grow at a constant rate, that means growth rate is 8%, we can find out the value of cost of equity, dividend 1 divided by P0 plus G. Dividend 1 was 4.50, P0 is 90, and the growth is 8% means 0.08. That is our cost of equity is 13%. Here also you need to remember, whenever anyone asks you calculate the cost of equity, it indicates cost of equity before tax, not after tax. Cost of debt, only cost of debt, it indicates cost of debt after tax. Cost of preference share means cost of preference share before tax. Cost of equity means cost of equity before tax. you don't need to adjust tax in case of preference share, in case of equity share. We will skip the supernormal growth formula. That will be tough for you. Little bit, this is very big math, and you need to do a big table, and there is a 50% chance all of you will do some mistake. But we will do the zero growth. That means in the earlier example, we use there is a growth rate, and the growth rate is 8%. If the mention the growth rate is 0, what will be the formula? The formula is same, just we need to omit the G, or if you write the G, this is the formula. Is the mention the growth rate is 0, we can put the value growth rate 0, or we can omit the formula plus G, we can omit the G, both will give us the same result. That's why they write the formula. In case of 0 growth, the formula is dividend divided by P0. And if the dividend is not given, and when there is no growth, this formula will be again replaced. This formula, dividend, we write 1 minus B, EPS 1 minus B. But when there is no growth, that means in this situation, dividend 1 is equal to EPS. Here is the second formula, dividend 1 P0, that we can replace EPS 1 divided by P0. These two formula you need to remember.
Sir, growth rate 0 এবং no growth দুটো তো সেমই তো।
না, দুটোর ভিতরে পার্থক্য আছে। গ্রোথ রেট 0 এবং নো গ্রোথ দুটোর ভিতরে পার্থক্য আছে। নো গ্রোথ মিন্স দেয়ার ইজ এ পার্সেন্টেজ। এটা এই বছর হয়তো কোনো হয় নাই, কিন্তু 0, সরি, in case of 0, that means there is a dividend, that is 0%. No growth means no dividend. 0 indicates there is a percentage, but that percentage is 0. No means no. There is no growth. These two are different. That's why you need to remember. And using this formula, we will solve this illustration. In this illustration, there are two types of cost of equity. One is known as internal equity, another is known as external equity. Before solving this math, you need to know the basic difference of internal and external. What is internal? If you want to invest a particular amount, that amount you collected from your organization internal retained earning, from your own source. Internal source, own source means internal source, or we can say from the retained earning, that is known as cost of internal equity. But if you want to invest and you raise the money by issuing new share to the market, that is known as cost of external equity. This basic difference makes the problem different, because when we talk about external equity, we need to know the issue price of the share. That means we can issue the share 105, we can issue the share 100, we can issue the share in 95. But what is the face value of the share? The face value of the share is 100. In case of internal equity, we know the face value of the share is 100. That's why you will use P0 value is 100. But in case of external equity, we need to know what is the issue price. If the issue price is at premium, we will use 105. If the issue price at discount, we will use 95. That's why we need to know in which situation we will use issue price, in which situation we will use face value. Here is an example. That means the company is currently selling 100. It wants to finance its capital structure 100 million either by retained earning or selling new share. Here is the two options. You can use your own fund from the retained earning, or you can use external financing. If the company sell new share means external financing, the issue price will be 95. The dividend per share next year is dividend 4.75. what they are asking for? They are asking for internal equity, they are asking for external equity. And they also provide us the growth rate is 6%. That's why we need to use G value is 6%. Here is the cost of internal equity. As it is internal, we use the P0 is 100. Here is the cost of external equity. We use the P value is 95. Just look in this problem and tell me, do you face any problem here or not? ওকে, দেখতে গেলেও তো আবার বই লাগবে, সেটাও তো নাই। Just read this problem and tell me, do you have any problem regarding this or not? কোনো প্রবলেম আছে কারো? প্রবলেম নাই কার কার? Okay, tell me what is your problem? Who raised the hand? Hand raise করলো কে? Okay, we'll move to the next part. This is the last example for return on equity. A firm is currently earning 1 lakh. This problem is related with this formula. That means when there is no dividend, but we can calculate earning per share. And we say that in case of zero growth, the earning per share divided by P0 will be your cost of equity. This is the formula. Cost of equity is equal to EPS divided by P0 when there is a zero growth. Currently earning 1 lakh taka and it has share selling at the market price 80. That is P0 is 80. The firm has 10,000 share outstanding and no debt. From these two information, you need to calculate your EPS first. What is the total earning? What is the total earning?
Sir, 1 lakh.
1 lakh. And what is the total number of share?
10,000
Then what is your EPS? 1 lakh divided by 10,000. That is 10. And the earning of the firm is expected to remain stable and it has a payout ratio is 100%. This is another information. That means whenever they say it, payout is 100%, there is no growth. This thing you need to remember. Sometimes they mention zero growth, G is 0. Sometimes they mention payout is 100%. Payout 100% means whatever you have earned, you distributed all money to the shareholder. That means there is a no chance of future growth. And that's why the formula is EPS divided by P0. That is your formula, 10 divided by 80. That is our cost of equity is 12.5%. This is the last example for KE. We will move to our last part, that is weighted average cost of capital. একটু এইটুকু ঠান্ডা মাথায় শোনেন, যারা ঘুমায় যাচ্ছেন এটা করেই শেষ করে দিব। এবং আপনাদের এই পারফরমেন্স এটা আমাকে খুব মোটিভেট করছে যে আপনাদের আর যত কষ্টই হোক আপনাদেরকে ক্যাম্পাসে নিয়ে আসতে হবে।
না স্যার, সাকিব খুব ভালো ব্যাটিং করতেছে স্যার, এই জন্য মনে হয় সবাই চুপ।
আপনি জানলেন কি করে সাকিব খুব ভালো ব্যাটিং করতেছে? হাউ ক্যান ইউ নো?
স্যার পাশে মানে আমার পাশে যে বসা উনি ইনফরমেশন দিচ্ছে আর কি।
আপনার পাশে কাকে বসায় নিয়ে ক্লাস করতেছে?
সরি স্যার।
টিউশন ফি কি একজনের দিচ্ছেন না দুইজনের দিচ্ছেন?
সরি স্যার, হবে না।
একজন, ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে কি, একটু বাংলায় একটা গল্প বলি। 3 ফ্রেন্ড একসাথে বসে নামাজ পড়তেছে, সামনে দিয়ে একটা মুরগি হেঁটে যাচ্ছে। তা এক ফ্রেন্ড করতেছে, হিস করে একটা শব্দ করছে, মুরগিটারে সরাইছে। আরেকজন পাশ থেকে বলতেছে নামাজ পড়ার সময় কথা বলতে নাই। আর তার পাশের জন দাঁড়ায় বলল আমি কিন্তু বলিনি। তাহলে আপনি যাদেরকে বলতেছেন খেলা দেখতেছে, আপনিও তো সেম কাজটাই করতেছেন, নাইলে সাকিব ভালো ব্যাটিং করতেছে আপনি জানলেন কি করে? যাই হোক, আমরা লাস্টে যেহেতু ওয়েটেড অ্যাভারেজ কস্ট অফ ক্যাপিটালটাতে এখানে বিভিন্ন পার্সেন্টেজ প্রপোর্শনেট করতে হয়, বা সবচেয়ে বড় পার্ট এইটা। জাস্ট ট্রাই টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড দিস পার্ট, দেন আই উইল ফিনিশ দ্য ক্লাস। You all can enjoy Sakib's batting. Hopefully, he will not remain in the crease up to this time. But তার পারফরমেন্স সেটাই ইন্ডিকেট করে। আমি খুবই বিরক্ত, এবং ও আজকে যে কাজটা করছে, ক্রিকেট খেলা এরকম কখনো দেখছেন যে ক্রিকেট হচ্ছে একটা ভদ্র মানুষের খেলা, সেখানে টাইম আউট চাওয়া হয়ে একটা প্লেয়ার, এটা ক্রিকেটের ইতিহাসে ওয়ার্ল্ড কাপে তো মনে হয় নাই।
স্যার এগুলো
এটা
তো
স্যার
ইন্ডিয়ান
ক্রিকেট ইতিহাসেই নাই স্যার।
এবং এটা একটা খুবই অসৌজন্যমূলক একটা আচরণ।
স্যার ম্যাচ
এটা
জিতাই লাগবে
ক্রিকেটে
somehow, ওইজন্য
কেউ এটা করে না।
করে হচ্ছে।
এইটা একটা কেন করতে গেল? আমরা তো হেরে বাড়ি চলে আসতেছি, শুধু এইটুকু নাম কামানোর দরকার ছিল সাকিবের? বাংলাদেশের
একদম না
মানুষ
স্যার।
যেটুকু ছিল সেটুকু নষ্ট করছে।
এটার জন্য হইলেও মনে রাখবে, এই জন্য করছে।
এটার জন্য মনে রাখবে, ওরে বাংলাদেশের মানুষ এমনিও মনে রাখবে, সমস্যা নেই। শুধু শুধু এই অকাজটা না করলেও হইতো। ওকে, whenever we need to calculate weighted average cost of capital, we need to know the difference between book value and market value. What is book value? What is market value? Book value means the value in your accounts or book. For example, you are sitting in a chair table, you are doing class in a chair table, the book value of the table is 1000, but that table you can sell in the market, that is more than 1000 or less than 1000. That means one value is written in your book and another value is the market value. But why we need the difference? Because whenever we will use weighted average cost of capital, we need to use the market value weight. Try to remember, we need to use the market value weight. Here is an example. For example, you have four sources of financing. You use share capital, you use reserve and surplus, you use preference share, you use debt. These are the amount and these are the percentage. That means we need to calculate weighted average cost of capital, and they already give us the cost of capital here. In case of equity, the cost of capital 18%, reserve 18%, preference share 11%, debt 8%. We need to use this proportion. That means the proportion is given here, or you can calculate it. How can we calculate? In case of share capital, 4,50,000. What is the total capital? 1 crore. Or sorry, total capital is 10 lakh. That means 4,50,000 divided by 10 lakh, that is 45%. In case of second one, 1,50,000 divided by 10 lakh is 15%. These are the proportion. In the exam, always you need to calculate that proportion. The second part is cost of equity, cost of debt. If the cost of debt is given before tax, we all know that we need to calculate the cost of capital, cost of debt after tax. Here, cost of debt after tax is given, there is no tax. Here is the rate after tax component cost. That means after tax debt is given. That's why we don't need to do the after tax. What we will do here, we need to just calculate, we need to just use the proportionate. That means 18% equity capital, the proportionate is 45. 18% multiplied by 0.45. 18% multiplied by 0.15, 11% multiplied by 0.10, we can find this percentage. If we add all these four, we will find our weighted average cost of capital using book value. Just check this last column. How can we calculate? There is a information given here. Column number 5 is simply multiplication of column number 3 and 4. And if the market value weight you need to use, that will be very critical for you. In case of market value, you need to know your internal capital proportionate. Here is the 4 option. Can anyone tell me which sources are internal, which sources are external, which sources are equity sources, which sources are other sources from these 4 sources? Which one are equity, which are not equity? When you talk about the market value, your capital, internal capital or equity capital, source, proportionate and cost will affect you, because you need to calculate the market value. This share capital and reserve and surplus is your equity capital. Preference is another source, debt is another source. That means these 2 are equity source. That's why they can. Here is the proportionate and the percentage. Here is the preference capital. Here is the debenture. How can they calculate? Here is the information given here. That means 45 million equity, 20 per share. 45 million multiplied by 20 is 9,00,000. Here is the 9,00,000. Here is the 1,000 given. All other informations are remain same. As it is equity capital, we use this percentage 18% for equity capital, and we finally calculate our weighted average cost of capital. Try to read all this part. We will solve 1 or 2 problems in our next class physically. Even it is a big strike, we will try to solve it physically. Okay, one more announcement. In our next managerial economics class, I already informed in the office and program director, next Saturday my class will be on 10 a.m. I will give a notice in the Google Classroom. 6:30 class will be 10 a.m. That means I announced earlier because there may be some other class rescheduling. Whenever you face any other class, tell them you already have a class at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Our next Saturday's class will be 10 a.m. Just give me 5 seconds and I'm just opening the attendance sheet and I will take the attendance. Let me see how many of you are already slept. Okay, if I announce now, those whose cameras is on, they will receive attendance. What will happen? Okay, what should I do? Should I call or I check the name and do the attendance?
Name and call.
Mr. Habibur Rahman, please একটু mute করে ফেলেন. Okay, whenever I call any roll, please just respond. If your microphone doesn't work, raise the hand. It will help you. Okay, those who have some problem, they will remain in the class. Those attendance are given, they can leave the class. And lastly, I will check the screen and I will give the attendance of the remaining person. First batch, roll number 27.
Yes, sir.
Third batch, roll number 4. যাদের অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স দেওয়া হবে তারা লিভ করতে পারবেন। থার্ড ব্যাচ রোল নাম্বার 8, 14,
Yes, sir.
16,
Yes, sir.
20,
Yes, sir.
22,
Yes, sir.
29, 30, 31,
Yes, sir.
32,
Yes, sir. Sir.
31, 32 present. 34.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
34 আছে 36 33 ডাকছি ওকে 36 37 40
Present, sir. 40 present.
43
Present, sir. 43.
48
Present, sir.
49
Present, sir.
50 51
Present, sir.
54
Present, sir.
60
Present,
61 62 63
Yes, sir.
64 67
Yes, sir.
68 71
Yes, sir.
64 নাজমুল হোসেন 74 72 70 ওকে যাদের অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স দেওয়া হয়ে গেছে তারা একটু লিভ করে ফেলেন যারা রয়ে যাবে আমি বুঝবো তারা অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স দিতে পারেন নাই তাদের নাম দেখে দেখে আমি খুঁজে বের করব those who can present they can leave those who are unable to attendance just remain in the screen I will check their name and find out the role এতজন রয়ে গেছে
স্যার আমি আসলে মানে এই প্রথম গুগল মিটে কোনো মিটিং করতেছি তো মানে কিভাবে লিভ করতে হবে অপশনটা পাচ্ছি না
ওকে লিভ শো পাচ্ছেন না আপনার স্ক্রিনে নিচে দেখেন 6-7টা বাটন আছে এর ভিতরে একটা আছে রেড বাটন একটা টেলিফোনের সাইন দেওয়া আছে
জি স্যার পাইছি
ওইটা
থ্যাংক
ক্লিক
ইউ
করলে আপনি আমাদের কাছ থেকে বিদায় নিন
স্যার থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার 16 আইডি 16 জি স্যার
জি 16
তো থার্ড ব্যাচ 29
29 দেওয়া হয়েছে
থার্ড ব্যাচ
স্যার
আব্দুল
থার্ড
হাসান।
ব্যাচ 50.
50 দিলাম আর কেউ
থ্যাংক ইউ।
33 তো আগেই দিছি ভাই আফজাল হোসেন রোল কত